Yes, hello everyone and welcome to all our West Australian football fans to another edition of Around the WAFL, the official podcast of the West Australian Football League. Well, we had two big games over the past weekend, round 16, which saw streaks shattered on both sides of the Swan River. We'll review those games, and in just a moment, we'll have a chat with Subiaco Coach Beau Wardman, and we'll also cast the Player of the Year votes. Paul Persick with you in the BackChat studios, and joining me once again is Mark Foreman. Forey, big welcome to you, mate.
G'day, Paul. Yeah, good to be back, and another good round of WAFL footy, even though we had a couple of teams with a bye, well, a few teams with a bye, but yeah, it was good to see, and some big results too, like you said.
Especially with the Freo Derby as well. A very storied streak, 15-0 going into the game, but East Fremantle finally shattered it, and Subiaco hitting their straps and ending East Perth's winning run.
Yeah, and I think we spoke about last week that Subi would have been a little bit annoyed at what happened a few weeks ago at Swan Districts, and they've responded the last couple of weeks really strongly. And yeah, as for the Freo Derby, well, I think we picked it, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. We did go with East Fremantle.
Trying to break it. But yeah, there's obviously something about that. Like, that's incredible. 15 games in a row. But yeah, well done to the Sharks, who were able to break it and really consolidate what they're doing at the pointy end of the ladder.
Absolutely. It was a very tense encounter over there at Fremantle Oval in front of a great crowd too, considering the weather. Now, we're in operation on our socials. We've got Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Give us a big thumbs up. We really do appreciate it. It is the official podcast of the West Australian Football League. Paul Persick and Mark Foreman for Around the WAFL. All right, Subiaco, Forey, what more can you say? They hit their straps. They were fired up after that loss to Swan Districts a couple of weeks ago, and they responded in a big way. A huge win over East Perth at Leederville Oval in the Battle of the Co-Tenants, and their coach, Beau Wardman, must have been very impressed with his performance, his side's performance, and he joins us here on today's show. Beau, good morning, mate. Welcome to Around the WAFL.
G'day, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you on the show. Must have been a really important win for you guys, considering the loss to Swan Districts a couple of weeks ago. Must have had the extra fire in the belly to beat the top side on the ladder.
Yeah, certainly. It's a pretty tight competition at the moment, so every game and every win's really important. So for the boys to come out and really play a strong brand of footy, I think we've been sort of there and thereabouts over the previous couple of weeks and hadn't got a couple of wins, but we had a bit of a form-boosting win against Perth, and it was really good to execute against East Perth on the weekend. Who certainly have got a formidable midfield and have been a really high-scoring team throughout the season.
Hey, Beau, at face value, the last couple of weeks have been really strong wins after, as we spoke about, probably at what you consider a poor loss to Swan Districts. What was the message after that Swans game, and how have you seen the response since then?
I think we probably just let ourselves down with some of our ball movement and execution against Swan Districts. I thought the work rate and the appetite for the contest was certainly there in that game. Swan's a really good team and have had a number of really close results during the season. So I think their form line is probably a little bit different to where their ladder position is, and we recognise that. But we certainly let ourselves down with some execution going inside forward 50 and just really connecting across all three lines over those couple of weeks, and it was probably just some bad periods, 15 or 20 minutes worth of footy where we let ourselves down. But I think we knew that the base game plan was there, and if we can stay at that long enough, we know that we're going to probably win more games than we lose, and it was pleasing to see the boys really respond in our messaging leading up into the Perth game, and then be able to continue that against really strong opposition against East Perth.
What about your ruckman? Your in-form ruckman, Zach Clark. He did it again, 46 hit-outs and 24 disposals. How do you rate his follow-up work, which is very, very important for any ruckman in the WAFL?
Yeah, no doubt. I think we sort of challenged Zach a little bit at quarter time. I thought probably wasn't playing to the level that we'd come to expect at that period of time, but testament to his character and just the way that he goes about it. He really responded. He got the midfield to lift. As you mentioned, his follow-up work's been outstanding. He provides an option for us down the lines, able to push forward into attack, and there's not too many defenders that are able to go with him. So he sort of took the game into his own hands, particularly after half-time, and was probably the difference on Saturday, certainly. But he's had a really, really strong and consistent season, and we're really grateful that he's been able to come back. He's played some good footy. He's bringing a great energy to the group and making some of the midfield guys really walk taller.
Beau, sitting third and playing some really good footy and have done throughout the year, I think perhaps a few people didn't have you maybe quite as high in their predictions. What about you? Has the group exceeded your expectations, or is this the high standard you always expected and are happy to see?
No, we sort of set ourselves up throughout the pre-season. Obviously, we disappointed in the last year's result and probably wasn't as true to form, but we were able to blood a number of young guys that have come in and really consolidated their position this year with another pre-season under their belt. So we recognise that the competition improves each year and different teams step up, and we were aiming to play finals again this year. We certainly know that over the next 3 weeks the ladder's really going to get shaped with a number of those games and can finish anywhere between first and fifth, or if results don't go certain teams' way, to miss out with West Perth really coming at the back end. So we've sort of just taken the approach that we wanted to play a really consistent brand, get back to the brand that I suppose most of WAFL followers have known Subi for, to be really resilient in games, to really fight out. And I think in almost every game that we've played this year, we've been able to execute on that. So I think that the foundations are there for us. We're building something that will stand up in finals, we think, and most of our guys have been fortunate to play in finals and grand finals. So if we can get to that point in the season, then we're going to give a real good shake of it.
Well, your side's got the bye this week, and the winners come at a very perfect time. And then in round 18, you've got the West Coast Eagles up at Leederville Oval. Congrats to the Lions on a great win. All the very best in 2 weeks' time against the Eagles. We really appreciate your time, Beau. Thanks very much.
No worries. Thanks, guys. Appreciate the support of the WAFL.
Beau Wardman, the coach of the Subiaco Football Club. And it has to be said, the club definitely has exceeded expectations considering where they were shaped up to be after missing the finals last year. And now getting back into the five, playing some really good footy at just the right time. It's all looking good for Beau Wardman and his side.
Yeah, for sure. And that's sort of why I was interested to ask him about expectations. You're never going to have a coach say, we just sort of want to, build a season and hope for the best. But it was interesting to say, if we make finals, we're doing well. And I think they've probably, judging by that, they probably have exceeded their own expectations because they're third with a genuine shot at finishing inside that double chance territory. So they've played really well. Yeah. And speaking to a few people externally from Subi who, have a vested interest, they've sort of said, I really like what they're doing and have exceeded expectations. So looking forward to seeing, where they can take it. I think they're a real challenge this year.
Yeah, we did forecast last week on Around the WAFL that they would rise up to that double chance. And like we said, they're playing some good footy. The forward line's functioning well, and so is their midfield. So they're looking absolutely polished. And to beat a side like East Perth, who have been in rampaging form in the last 7 or 8 weeks, is a real statement.
Yeah, and as you touched on there as well, they've got probably the dominant player of the competition who's making a serious impact every week he plays in Zach Clark. That's ridiculous. 46. I mean, we'll touch on this game in a second, but 46 hit-outs, 24 disposals. My God.
One word, domination.
Yeah.
Absolute domination. He was fantastic. We'll recap that game in just a moment, but before we do, just a reminder that every game in round 17 this weekend of the WAFL, 4 games taking place in round 17, is live, free, and in full on the AFL app. This is Around the WAFL. Paul Persick and Mark Foreman. All right, let's get to the 2 games for you. First off, the Derby at Fremantle Oval. The Sharks, the 1 in 15 and 1 at last, conquering that final hurdle, defeating South Fremantle in what was a very tense encounter for you by just the 12 points. And again, as was becoming a habit, the Bulldogs got the jump. But as was the habit, the Sharks came back into the game and South Fremantle faded.
Yeah, and Derby's always full of momentum shifts.
Oh, yeah.
To an extent, it doesn't even really matter what sport it is. When you get 2 serious rivals like this, there's always going to be times when one team's on top and you've got to try and wrest that momentum back. So, like you said, they were able to do it. And it absolutely would have been in their mind. We spoke last week to, was it Harry Marsh?
Harry Marsh,
about the sort of mentality of, having lost 15 in a row. It's got to play some sort of factor, and I'm sure it would have been in their minds. But that's credit to them, and they showed the resolve to be able to, not only overturn a deficit, but overturn a 15-game losing streak for a really good win. And like we said, that is so important for for their ladder standing. So now sitting second on percentage above Subi.
Now, the same can be said for Bill Monahan as far as, the interest around the street, because I spoke with him at the ground just before the game. I was doing the call for the AFL app, and I spoke to him before the game as the players were warming up, and you could see that there was a sharp focus in Bill's mind and a sharp focus in the players' mind that they were just as determined as anything to beat South Fremantle and end that streak, and they did just that, and he had a huge smile on his face after the game. But East Fremantle, they were fantastic in that last quarter especially. They were behind the 8 ball for much of it, but South Fremantle, having said that, they were playing some really good football. They looked a little more polished after quarter time, and in the second and third quarters they were using the ball a lot more efficiently. They had Jimmy Miller dominating in the ruck. His versatility from a forward to a ruck has been outstanding. His adaptability in those situations. Tom Bletcherton, he saw plenty of the ball. So too Jake Florenka. And Brandon Donaldson, we spoke about him playing a vital swing roll up forward. He started in the pocket, kicked 4 goals. He was brilliant.
Yeah, and they're the sort of moves that can overturn games like that and deficits like that as well. So that's a huge move. And John O'Marsh pretty good as well, and missed a few shots at goal, but was still able to capitalise it and kick 3 himself.
That was a game I needed to see him perform. I needed to see him play that sort of game, flood the scoreboard and be high on confidence, because he's a huge confidence player. He needs to have a good start in the first quarter, and that'll set the tone for the rest of the game. He got a good start, kicked an early goal, got the Sharks pumping, and he kicked 3 goals, flooded the scoreboard. Yeah, bit inaccurate in front of goal, but he was able to contribute to some vital goals for Montalban and also a couple of other goals to Ben Maguire and Hugh Dixon as well. He was involved in a lot of those goals, and I reckon 3 goals for a side, that's one of his best games.
Yeah, and I think we did touch on this last week as well. You can often spot the players who have that AFL exposure because they tend to stand up in games like that. And he certainly did. Took 5 marks and was following up well as well. Like tackled really strongly. I think he laid 5 tackles. So
5, yeah.
To hit the scoreboard in that way was really good. Hugh Dixon was the other one who I thought had a really strong impact. 19 touches isn't groundbreaking, but he is a ruckman, so he's done pretty well there and was able to really use his presence and kicked a goal as well. So they're the sort of players that are invaluable in WAFL footy, and they certainly showed that.
We'll touch on a couple of more players who polled in that game for the Player of the Year votes in just a moment, but we'll get into the second game. Over at Leederville Oval, of course, East Perth were looking to make it 9 wins in a row. Subiaco keep in touch with that top 2 bracket and hope for a home qualifying final. The Lions got it done, 15-5 to 7-12. East Perth, and I'll say it, I'm happily eating humble pie right now. I said East Perth wouldn't drop a game. They did drop it, so I think they'll have to be after me for a moment. But credit to Subiaco. They played some great football. They looked very polished. They looked very disciplined, especially in midfield. And they got the job done, especially after a 5-2 goal first quarter.
Yeah, they did. You had me really worried when I went against you last week, Paul. I was tipping Subiaco, but come out on top of that. I don't get many wins, Paul, so I've got to celebrate them when I can.
Absolutely.
They were good, and like we just spoke with to Beau, almost not overachieving, but certainly exceeding expectations and playing really good footy and starting to play the footy at the right end of the year as well. So it was really polished, and you could tell they came out with a vigour, really strong start, and we're never going to relinquish that.
Looking at that first quarter, 5 goals to 2, it was clear that purpose was evident right from the start. They wanted to play a much more aggressive, more fiery brand of football, especially after that loss to Swan Districts, where they almost had it in the bag and blew it in the last couple of minutes. But they knew they needed to have a good start against a fellow finals contender in East Perth to get any momentum. And like we said, we had Zach Clark dominating again, 46 hitouts. Favourite for the Sandover medal. We've said this for weeks. He should be the firm favourite for that prestigious medal. The Hickmott boys, again, were terrific. 24 touches for Liam Hickmott. Only 13 for Will, but he took 8 very good marks on the defensive half. And the forward line, very impressed with how the forward line functioned. You had the likes of Taj Schofield, Ryan Borchett, and Ben Sokol in and amongst the goals. They kicked 10 goals between them, and I was very impressed in particular with Sokol, who's finally able to get himself back into true form as a forward who can flood the scoreboard with good kicks at goal.
Yeah, and guys like that, so someone like Sokol, that he doesn't need many opportunities, and to kick 3 goals from, I think he had 7 kicks, so invaluable, because it's almost like if you kept quiet for 2 or 3 quarters, you can still pop up, and we've seen him do it for years in the WAFL, and he's done it again and stood up in a really big game.
While for East Perth, they they were due to lose a game, some may say, but this was maybe the right game they wanted to lose to, especially against a finals contender in Subiaco. This one will spur them on for the rest of the season, and if they meet Subiaco again in the finals, they'll have a lot to learn from this game on how to take on Subiaco's game plan and how to just outsmart them at the coalface.
Yeah, absolutely. You take whatever you can from any outing, and a loss to Subi, they'll certainly be able to figure out what went wrong and how to fix it. But I don't think they ever would have said, we needed to lose one. I don't think any team would say that. They'll be annoyed, and perhaps we'll use it to spur them on. And I think they had a few players down.
They did,
which is going to happen. It's a long season. We're in the middle of winter. Things can drag. These guys, most of them, are all working full time and stuff like that. So you can have down weeks, and I think that's just what's happened to East Perth. Take nothing away from what they've done this season, and they're going to be right there at the pointy end. Obviously, they're our ladder leaders, and they are there for a reason.
Absolutely. We'll go to that ladder after round 16. East Perth still on top, 44 points. East Fremantle jump into second with that win over their arch rivals. Subiaco third. Claremont dropped to fourth, and they have a must-win game at the Wacker on Saturday against the Sharks. Peel Thunder are in fifth. West Perth still a couple of games behind in sixth, and then go Swan District, South Fremantle, Perth, and the West Coast Eagles rounding out the bottom half of the ladder after 16 rounds of competition. Another month of footy to go before the finals. It's going to be a real exciting stage in the season when the run home to the finals and who finishes in the final five is going to be filled with intrigue.
It will, and we're still, watching with, anticipation to see if anyone from that five, it's probably only Peel, will drop out. West Perth, as Beau Wardman said, snapping at their heels and are going to give, Peel a bit of a fright. Claremont, they'd need to drop 3 games, so they're probably solidified. But it's looking to be a really nice run home.
Certainly will be. This is Around the WAFL, the official podcast of the West Australian Football League. And just a reminder, every game in round 17 is live, free and in full on the AFL app. You're with Paul Persick and Mark Foreman. All right, you know what time it is, Forey. The Player of the Year votes, round 16. And, of course, we only had 2 games this weekend. And, of course, we'll have players from the same team, multiple players from the same team polling votes.
When only 2 games, I was pretty gutted. There's no Golden Grunt this week.
Yeah.
The Swans didn't play.
Don't worry, there will this coming weekend when the Swans play South Fremantle.
I'm excited.
Fantastic. I know you love that Golden Grunt. Get a hashtag going at every Swans game. Hashtag Golden Grunt.
Yeah, we should do. Yeah, I actually met the guy. I met Grunt.
Yeah?
When I was at Steel Blue Oval last week. Yeah, great dude. Burps all the time. Yeah.
No wonder.
Why it's called the Golden Grunt.
No wonder, indeed. All right, let's get to the votes. 1 vote, Ryan Borchett from Subiaco. 4 goals. His form up forward really needed a big boost, and that's exactly what he delivered. 4 goals and a great performance inside 50. 2 votes from a losing team, but Jimmy Miller, his effort in the ruck, just outstanding. 40 hit-outs, 15 disposals, 4 inside 50s too. His follow-up, delivery and service to that forward 50 for much of that game was absolutely terrific. Jonathan Marsh, he gets the 3 votes from East Fremantle. Again, he was involved in a lot of those goals and definitely one of his best performances this season in a very long time. 4 votes, Zach Clark. He continues to poll. He's just getting consistent with polling votes. 46 hit-outs, 24 disposals, 7 marks, 4 tackles and 4 inside 50s.
I thought you might have him at the number 5.
But it's not this week,
No.
but it goes to the Around the WAFL top gun of round 16, goes to Fraser Turner of East Fremantle. The South Australian, since coming over here to WA, his work rate is just improving week by week by week. And the way he was able to gather possession of the football and effectively dispose of it, especially when playing the ball out wide when South Fremantle were taking control of that game midway through, was just impressive. So a job well done to Fraser Turner.
Yeah, like you said, it's one thing to win the footy, but to use it well is obviously critical, and he seems to have a bit of a gift in that area. So I haven't seen him play all that much. I've seen once or twice and been super impressive. So looking forward to watching him in the back half of the year. He'll be a really important player for the Sharks.
Solid footy IQ he's got, Fraser Turner, and a job very well done to him in getting the 5 votes for round 16. Now, the leaderboard, after 16 rounds, we've got 4 rounds still remaining to determine the player of the year. Zach Clark, he stretches his lead a little bit to 5 votes ahead of Jarvis Pena and Jai Bolton, who are tied for second. Mitch Crowden for East Perth. He is in 4th, and Milan Murdoch on 9. He's in 5th, tied with Tyler Keitel, and rounding out the top 10, each on 8 votes, are Aidan Clark, Tom North, and Fraser Turner, who jumps into that top 10, and in 10th is Jimmy Miller from South Fremantle. 4 rounds to go, Forey, and the Player of the Year race is really heating up.
It is. Some good names there, isn't it? It's and it's funny, like, you get a best on ground and you just can shoot yourself up that leaderboard. So it is very condensed there. Zach Clark, obviously, and rightly so, leading the way, but it is a tight leaderboard.
Certainly is. Anything can happen in the last 4 rounds of the season.
Sure can, and these are the games when players start to stand up, vying for making sure that they're trying to get that top 3 position and the double chance, and the class players will really show their stuff.
And of course, it all begins in that round 17 this weekend. 4 games on Saturday. Looking forward to proving it on Thursday with you, Forey.
Likewise, Paul. Look forward to it. I'll see you then.
And we thank you to all our listeners and our viewers for tuning in to another edition of Around the WAFL, the official podcast of the West Australian Football League. And by the way, every game in round 17 this weekend is live, free, and in full on the AFL app. We also have socials in operation: Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Give us a big thumbs up. We really do appreciate it. We look forward to your company on Thursday to preview a big round 17.